I'd like to share with you my memories of a very precious man, my granddad. A man who I remember so fondly, a strict man who loved me unconditionally. He passed just 2 years ago, and yet his legacy remains. With each passing month, I've become more and more aware of just how much impact he had on my life. Let me share with you his story. Born in 1930, Grandad was a man from a different age. He was born in India, which was still in the grips of British rule. He was a man that attended rallies with the immortal Mahatma Gandhi and saw India win independence at the tender age of 17. He was a young man who left his own country in the 1960s and travelled to the UK in search of a better life. He found a country, while full of opportunity, blighted with systemic racism. While he left India, a highly qualified math professor, having studied to the highest level, he was only allowed clerical jobs within the UK, as both his experience and qualifications were discredited or simply not recognised. This has made me appreciate my experience of coming to the States from the UK and getting the opportunity to study at MTSU. My academic background has never been questioned here. While I've certainly found it a challenge to adapt to a new system, I've at least been allowed to do so. Grandad was silenced, racially insulted over his 50-year working life, and still managed to raise a family who all went on to be successful and continue the family line. My granddad did not grow up with an affluent background. He worked incredibly hard for everything and was given very little. He used to tell me how excited he was when he got his first pair of shoes when he was a teenager, and how he had his first watch, the only way of telling the time in those days, when he was in his 20s. I can't imagine walking around barefoot for so many years, or quite frankly, not being able to purchase a necessity. These are concepts I've simply never had to grapple with. I marvel at the legacy of Grandad when I wonder how I would survive now if everything was taken from me. The pressures of living in a new country in a somewhat hostile environment did take their toll on Grandad's life in very personal ways that very few people ever understood. He suffered. However, he never expressed any of this in his dealings with people. He was heartbreakingly fair to all those who persecuted him. He did not hold personal grudges. He never focused on personal gain. He always served others to his dying day. There are so few people like this today. He passed on 2 years ago at the grand old age of 89. A life well lived was the sentiment at his funeral. I'm striving and learning to be just like him. I love the legacy he has left with my mother and father, and ultimately with me. From time to time, I think of him, and if I'm having a bad day, the thought of him raises my gaze from my momentary troubles and reminds me that my life really is very, very easy.